Observe the heart of the bride of Christ. And she arose and bowed herself to the ground and said, Behold, let your handmaiden be a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my Adonai, my lifeguard. Behold, let your handmaiden be a servant to your servants. I humble myself below the ones who humble themselves before you. 1 Samuel 25, verse 41. This is Abigail. Abigail was married to the fool, and she did not break away from him. She patted his corner, she made excuses for him, and she literally was his protective helper, even though he was being insane. Then God did away from him, and she received a David. It's the 9 o'clock hour. I've been encouraged to take the 9 o'clock hour and the 12 o'clock hour to do a quick family encouragement. So, once again, the Israelites felt the Lord's anger when he incited David against them. And gave him orders that Israel and Judah should be counted. Wow. I turned right to it. This is David's big mistake. God incited David against the Israelites. God caused David to be involved in an activity that was not whole. David gave orders that Israel and Judah should be counted. So he instructed Joab and the officers of the army with him to go round all the tribes of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, and make a record of the people and report the number to him. Joab answered, Even if the Lord your God should increase the people 100-fold, and your majesty should live to see it, what pleasure would that give your majesty? But Joab and the officers were overruled by the king. So the king is pushing to figure out how much manpower he has. Joab and the officers left David's presence in order to count the people. They crossed the Jordan and began in Aroer and the level land of the gorge, proceeding towards Gad and Jazer. They came to Gilead and to the land of the Hittites, to Kadesh, and then to Dan and Ion, and so round towards Sidon. They went as far as the walled city of Tyre and all the towns of the Hivites and the Canaanites, and they went on to the Negeb of Judah and Beersheba. They covered the whole country and arrived back in Jerusalem after 9 months. It took 9 months to find out how much power, human power, they had. 9 months and 20 days. Joab reported to the king the total number of people, the number of able-bodied men capable of bearing arms. This is about fighting a war. The number was 800,000 in Israel and 500,000 in Judah. After he had counted the people, David's conscience smote him. Oh no, he said to Adonai, I have done a very wicked thing. I pray thee, Lord, remove your servant's guilt, for I have been very foolish. Okay, now let me show you what's going on here. When David wins a battle from God, it's a totally bizarre victory. God says, okay, send half of your guys over this way, make 1/3 of them sit in this field, and when you hear the sound of marching in the trees, then send the 300 to go attack those guys. And all these weird miracles happen, and the enemy kills themselves and they run away, or various other things. So all of David's victories are not from numbers and powers. Okay, you better carry a concealed weapon. Okay, you better defend yourself. Oh, okay, you better have defenses on you. All of David's victories are from supernatural guidance direct from God. And it is logical for kings to count up their mighty men. But David is not allowed to do logical stuff, because that's not what wins if you're moving with Sweet One. So all of a sudden, David's just doing what all the kings do. They check and find out how much power they have, so they figure out who they want to go up and war against and that kind of stuff. So he's doing an ordinary thing, like all the people, everybody else is doing it. Okay, well, everybody's worried about this. We better do this. This is what everybody does. We better do what everybody does. After he had counted the people, David's conscience smote him, and he said to Adonai, I have done a very wicked thing. I pray you, Adonai, remove this servant's guilt, for I have been very foolish. He rose next morning, and meanwhile the command of the Lord had come to the prophet Gad, David's seer. Do you have a seer? Is there a person among you who has instructions for you? Meanwhile, the command of the Lord had come to the prophet Gad, David's seer, to go and speak to David. This is the word of the Lord. I have 3 things in store for you. Choose one, and I will bring it upon you. Now, this is Heavenly Father about to he's saying to his kid, okay, you're getting a punishment. You want this, you want that, or you want this? I'm serious. Here we go. Gad came to David. This is what the seer came to David. He repeated this to David. He said, listen, this is the word of the Lord. I have 3 things in store for you. Choose one, and I will bring it upon you. Choose your punishment. So Gad came to David and repeated this to him and said, is it to be 3 years of famine in your land? Or 3 months of flight with the enemy at your heels? Or 3 days of pestilence in your land? Consider carefully what answer I am to take back to him who sent me. So the seer is going to tell God. And if you're aware of that, in the book of Tobit, the angel Raphael says, I am the one who took your prayers to the throne room of God. So you've got men and women of God who hear, and then you have angels who hear and carry. Men and women of God hear and carry to God, and angels hear and carry to God. Thereupon David said to Gad, I am in a desperate plight. Let us fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is great, and let me not fall into the hands of men. So the Lord sent a pestilence throughout Israel from morning till the hour of dinner, and from Dan to Beersheba, 70,000 of the people died. This is just because the king, the captain, picture the captain of your family making a mistake and horrible stuff coming to all of the people. This is the picture of your spiritual leaders who want to do all kinds of nice Jesus stuff that everybody, oh, let's do deliverance, oh, let's study this, oh, let's study that, but they don't want to admit their personal sins. And they don't want to follow one marriage covenant for life. Oh, well, we made a mistake, let's go, oh, now God has a godly man for you. Oh, you had that messed up marriage, that's cool, that's over. Now God's going to give you a godly man. Beware. There are so many lies. There are so many lies. Your fathers and your leaders and your teachers, I'm talking about even Oswald Chambers and Smith Wigglesworth and Derek Prince. have not been teaching the family honesty home communion form of church. Okay, so David makes this big mistake, and what happens? 70,000 of the people died. Then the angel stretched out his arm towards Jerusalem to destroy it. Their best was about to be destroyed. But the Lord repented of the evil and said to the angel who was destroying the people, "Enough, stay your hand." For example, my friend Muriella, yes, public. Many troubles have befallen you. But what if God decided to literally take away promise? What if he decided to take her away? The angel stretched out his arm towards Jerusalem to destroy it, but the Lord repented of the evil and said to the angel who was destroying the people, "Enough, stay your hand." At that moment, the angel of the Lord was standing by the threshing floor of Arumah the Jebusite. When David saw the angel who was striking down the people, he said to the Lord, "Is it I who have done wrong? The sin is mine. But these poor sheep, what have they done? Let your hand fall upon me and upon my family." That same day, Gad came to David and said to him, "Go and set up an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Arumah the Jebusite." David did what God told him to do and went up as the Lord had commanded. When Araunah looked down and saw the king and his servants coming over towards him, he went out, prostrated himself low before the king, and said, "Why has your majesty come to visit his servant?" David answered, "To buy the threshing floor from you, to build an altar to the Lord, so that the plague which has attacked the people may be stopped." Araunah answered David, "I beg your majesty to take it and sacrifice what you think fit. I have here the oxen for a whole offering, and their harness and the threshing sledges for the fuel." That's just like Elisha. He's giving up his means of work. He's giving up his own oxen, and he's given his plows as fuel. Araunah gave it all to the king for his own use, and said to him, "May the Lord your God accept you." But the king said to Araunah, "No, I will buy it from you. I will not offer to the Lord my God whole offerings that have cost me nothing." Okay, this is silver and gold and precious stones. Faith is risk. You need to risk things to walk with God. You need to risk your whole life. You need to be willing to put yourself in a jail in order to walk closely with him and cut off those things that mess you up. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. He built an altar to the Lord there and offered the whole offering and shared offerings. Then the Lord yielded to David's prayer for the land, and the plague in Israel stopped. I turned right to one of the most important stories about the heads of a household who do things that are logical to the world. He was just doing a logical thing that people do. And he was literally wrecked and ruined. And the way he was wrecked and ruined was he wasn't hurt. His people were hurt. Consider these things.